The West African Network for Peace Building says it is happy about the peace and stability Ghana has enjoyed in the past years. My name is Brian Nanafu. Thanks so much for staying there for the big story. And we'll be talking about security. The West African Network for Peace Building has released a report on Ghana's security. According to the program's director, that report is yet to be taken through the kind of peer review that is done normally by WANEP. And he will tell us more about it later on. But Chukwu Emeka is the program's director. He's just joined me on the big story. Chukwu, welcome to the big story.
Thank you so much.
Tell us precisely, this report talking about Ghana, good news or bad news?
I think I will emphasize more about the good news, and then I'll highlight one or two issues that we feel that we continue to monitor and ensure that it does not disrupt the kind of enormous peace and security we have enjoyed over the last 1 year.
Right.
But let me also, first of all, underscore the importance of this kind of engagement, especially with the media, and how we continue to emphasize that early warning and early response is a collective and collaborative approach. And while it is the primary responsibility of the state to provide this kind of security for lives and property in a democratic setting such as ours, I think we as civil society and the media have a lot to contribute in this direction.
Right.
I think the major thing to underscore is that over time, the Ghanaian public have risen to the extent where they are able to engage very constructively with the state, and they are able to make very important inputs into the human security aspect. However, if you look at the report that you are referring to, you will understand that it is even actually what I can, without missing words, consider to be below average of what is expected of WANEP because of the what you already mentioned about the peer review mechanism that goes through in WANEP.
Right.
But I'm happy to report that as far as we are concerned, if you look at across the region, across the sub-region, that Ghana continues to play a very important role, not just in internal peacekeeping and peace building operations, but even outside. You can also notice that Ghana is beginning to more and more also provide leadership at the level of African Union in what they consider to be the importance of collective peace and security within the continent. But the areas that we think that we need to look closely is that because of the expansion that is taking place in Ghana, the influx of people, both from the rural areas and from outside the country, that the tendency is that utilities begin to also get affected. So if 2 people were using lights before and you have 5 people needing light, what that means is that you begin to face these kind of challenges that happen in infrastructure, especially water, electricity, and so on and so forth. So there is bound to be complaint within the society. But I think the government owe the society the constant explanation of why this is happening because of the population increase, which is massive and unprecedented, and also what they are doing to address such issues so that they continue to reduce the tension that exists in the policy. Secondly, within the ruling party and the opposition party, there is need also to monitor the activities of its members to ensure that within the political arrangement, the politics is played according to the rules and the game of the game.
Chukwu, I want us to go into some of the issues that you have raised. But first of all, let's look at the issue you raised about the peer review system that you have. Are you suggesting that because the report has not gone through that procedure, it is not a report that we can lay emphasis on? Is that your suggestion?
Yes. In our early warning system, we have a peer review mechanism because we are also aware that we are human beings. So once in a while, when I write reports and I am a party or I am, by the nature of our work, we tend to even take sides with the less privileged. So what we do is that we subject such reports before we put it to the public domain to peer review. so that you etch out issues of bias, you ensure that the data is verified, you ensure that all the stakeholders are carried along, such that the report does not generate panic. Our report is supposed to be an alert and also options for response that will assist the state in doing what they are asked to do by the collective mandate of the people. But our report in itself should not be a source of anxiety to the society.
Right. But would you then want to describe this report as one that is causing panic?
I think from the reaction that I've gathered within both the government circle and some individuals that have made calls, the report is a bit on the panic side. It emphasizes more about the negative rather than the positive that we're enjoying. But I'm saying that if you compare Ghana's peace and stability to that of other countries in the region, you will begin to appreciate the enormous effort that the government and its apparatus is putting to ensure that we enjoy and continue to enjoy the stability and such that Ghana will continue to provide this kind of leadership within the region.
Let's discuss some of the issues that the report is raising and try and look at both the negative and the positive aspect. Now, first of all, you raise the issue of the fact that migration, both within and without, is resulting in some kind of pressure on infrastructure. Let's explain this a little more further.
I'm saying that if you look at the population of Ghana 3 years ago or 5 years ago and the population today, without having the exact statistics in my hand, you will notice a very big upsurge in the population. So what that means is that more people are competing for the same infrastructure. So the infrastructures are beginning to expand. If you notice, we used to have a lot of traffic in Accra. Right. But the more now they expand the roads, the less the traffic. So all these are as a result of the population growth. More people are coming into Ghana, of course, for reasons including the stability of its democracy and the stability of the policy. So more people, both outside of Ghana, are coming to Ghana. And if you also look at the movement from the rural areas to the urban areas, it's also putting pressure on infrastructural facilities. So, but I think that by and large, of course, when this happens, the natural thing that happens is that the society begins to raise concerns about the functioning of the government, whether the government is still taking care of themselves. So what the government needs or owe the public is to explain this, because people really don't understand the relationship between this influx in an increase in population and the pressure on the infrastructure.
Now, you tell me, I also want us to stay on this. How dangerous is this particular issue of pressure on infrastructure in terms of early warning system? How dangerous is this?
Now, when you notice this kind of pressure, what happens always is that people who even ordinarily have been together over a period of time begin to see differences in themselves. And that's because the infrastructures that exist, the kind of privileges they enjoy, is no longer just for themselves, but it's going to be divided by so many people. Take, for instance, there should be naturally an increase in rent. And when this happens, the natural anxiety that exists within the society is transferred. And that, for us, is affecting the human person. So, in other words, the human security we are referring to is the peace of the individual that constitutes the society.
Can we say, for instance, if we want to look at a practical example, that the increasing number of people on the streets, the youth who are engaged in hawking all kinds of things, perhaps it's a sign of the danger ahead?
I think that's not something we can discountenance, because these are kids that are supposed to be in school. And therefore, when some elements of the society, when there is this kind of pressure that exists on infrastructure, the school is no longer big enough for all the people, or the cost of living is getting high because of this kind of rapid population growth, what naturally happens is that some of them begin to also go to the street. Right. And from hawking water and cleaning glasses of cars, they can begin to even clean pockets of people, You
also talk about the issue of politics, where you think that we need to take a look at both the ruling government and the opposition. Can you also explain here, where lies the danger?
Well, I think I'm not sure it's just about danger. It's just about calling attention. Because naturally, when political parties are going for their convention, when they begin to prepare for this kind of elections and conventions that elect both party officials and begin to reposition who will be the flag bearer and all that.
Right.
It's contestation. And once there is contestation, it's important that we follow that kind of contestation very closely so that if anything arises within the context, that we are able to arrest it and nip it on the bud, rather than allow it to degenerate outside of the party or become a menace in the society. So it's more like an attention than just a danger, as it were. And it's a natural occurrence once there is contestation.
Right. Internal party elections, you think that perhaps it's something that we should be worried about?
No, I think it's more to also remind Ghanaians that the stability of his democracy is a product of the enormous work that has gone into ensuring that, rather than a culture. It's not just a culture. People work towards that. The media, the civil society, the government, the INEC, all these play important roles in ensuring the kind of democracy and stability we have. So we do not want to reverse that. So it's important that we continuously work and ensure the maintenance of such spirit of contestation that has existed as an example in the region.
And if you say we continuously work and ensure that we maintain what we have, in this direction, what can the government do?
The government can only work towards improving what is on the ground, ensure that the atmosphere is free, fair, and credible, and give everybody equal opportunity. So the fact that a government in power does not make it to say that if they don't win power, then it is a do or die. So the government needs to lead by example. And I think they've demonstrated that over time. And
are you suggesting that from our journey from 1992, our political parties have still not accepted the fact that an election is won through the ballot box?
I think that has been demonstrated. And even when there are elements of doubt, people have chosen the right path, which is attention to the state institutions. That also tells a lot about the trust and confidence that the political parties, the politicians, and the citizens have on the state institutions. So I think that's a very good sign.
And precisely, you talked about, for instance, let me take you to the very first issue that you raised about pressure on infrastructure and the fact that there are a lot of people on the street selling, and that doesn't send the right signal. Is government doing enough to get these persons off the street?
I would say it is work in progress. The government is doing well, but there is room for improvement, just like every other government. So I think it's work in progress. Our idea, the ideal, will be for these people to be out of the street. So long as we see even one human being on the street, it means we have not concluded. So it's work in progress.
Chuku, hold the line for me. Let me speak to the Director of Elections of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Martin J. Kosa. He's just joined this discussion. Mr. Kosa, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening. Now, the West African Network for Peace Building is talking about Ghana's peace and stability. And they think that we have enjoyed quite a stable country, but they think that there's a lot more that needs to be done. For instance, they raise the issue of pressure on infrastructure because of people moving from the rural areas to the urban centers. Now, the NPP, has this crossed your mind about how it can affect the peace that we enjoy?
Well, I must concede that I've not seen this report.
Right.
And therefore, my analysis are a bit limited. But you are asking me the pressure on rural-urban migration.
And infrastructure.
And then its effect on the infrastructure.
And the stability that we enjoy.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Kosa, I can hear you.
Yes, can you just come up with
the effect of the large number of people who are competing for the same water, competing for the same electricity, competing for the same road network, therefore pressure on this infrastructure?
Yes, I think it is not the best. It for me, it does not even help in terms of the lifespan of infrastructure that we build for ourselves. If you have any facility that must serve 1,000 people, and because of human pressure due to migration and so on and so forth, things will wear out much earlier than their time was. What it means is that there is overcrowding, and the effect or the implications for me are obvious. So I think I agree with that report. As a country, we need to do a lot in our development agenda. And for me, time cannot wait for us. Population is increasing, and these are some of the effects. And to really do well, we need to really, quicken the pace of development and make sure that it spreads out. Okay, we need to decentralize or spread down development so that we can ease this pressure. And for me, it's not just about infrastructure. There are all other attendant, problems that deal with all of these migration or drift of if you like, society to one area. So I agree entirely with that.
Now, if you say that we need to quicken the pace of development, government continuously tells the public that we are expanding the road network, we are expanding electricity supply, we are expanding water supply. Is this not perhaps the solution to some of these challenges?
I think, and I want to concede, okay, as politicians, we need to do much more than just words, just talk, just rhetoric, okay? This country affords us or gives us too much opportunity, okay, too much resources. And I think that we need to do better than have done or we claim to be doing. It's not commensurate with the amount of resources that come. We need to cut down waste. We need to get our priorities right. And we need to be commitment to what we say we will do. For me, it's to all parties. Cut across. Forget about NPP, forget about NDC. We need to do much more. And that is not to say that previously or currently we haven't done anything, but we need to do much more.
How would you react to the report when it says that both the ruling party and the opposition party must also be checked in a way to ensure that we continue to enjoy the peace that we're enjoying?
Well, I think that much as I don't want to sound complacent, okay, generally Ghanaians are peace-loving people. We have come a long way, but we can also not take anything for granted. All we can do is to agree with one another and constantly, okay, with time, do the things that will foster peace amongst us. And for me, that is the best way of safeguarding the peace and stability that this country enjoys. But I have no fear. I believe in the Ghanaians, okay? I trust that we cherish our peace. And like we have had very, very turbulent times, very difficult times, that we thought that this country was going to break up. Yet we walk through it and we survive. It encourages me and gives me the hope that indeed we can't always get there. But that is to say that don't take it for granted. Let us not be complacent and draw ourselves off the path, that helps us to pursue this particular course of peace and stability.
And just before I let you go, one is also raising concerns that as we get ready to go into 2016, with political parties beginning to elect their leaders in the various constituencies, in the various regions. Now, if we don't check the way we go about the electioneering process, the spillover could get into... Well, I hope I've not lost Mr. Kosa on the line, but sorry, I'll get him back for us to wrap up our discussion. Chuku, are you on the line?
I am on the line.
Right, sorry, I lost Mr. Kos. I will try and bring him back. But, of course, he seemed to agree with some of the issues you raised here. But let's wrap up the conversation this way. Now, you said that this report is not to cause panic, but only to alert us. Both the public, civil society, and government, how should we take this report?
I think we should take more of the message, and if there are areas that need, because the idea of the report is not just to score any point or claim to be expert in the field,
right,
but to also call attention and put in the public domain this kind of alert, which will help us to begin to engage each other, not just in the content of the report, but in what we need to do to ensure that any issue that we have raised, whether rightly or wrongly, whether any issue that we have raised is likely to disturb the peace and stability of the country. And collectively, how do we support the government and its agencies to ensure that we continue to enjoy the peace we enjoy?
So what role do we have as civil society, as individuals, as political parties, as non-governmental organizations? Do we play a bigger role, more than government, in continuing to enjoy the peace that we have?
I think the primary responsibility of the state is to provide peace and security. Even in the oath of office, you may not provide infrastructure as much as you see peace and security. So that's the primary role of government. But we also need to understand that we have a role to play in supporting the efforts of government, whether as media that puts this kind of interview across for us to engage one another. You heard very well my brother from NPP. The position that's very constructive, and we should encourage that kind of engagement.
Let's wrap up on this. The West African sub-region and the peace that Ghana has. You think that we are free from any influence, whether negative or positive, from the sub-region?
I think it's not. Ghana is not isolated from the sub-region, but I think both the government and the citizens of Ghana have done well to appreciate the peace they enjoy. And they have also had experiences of people who have gone through civil war and all sorts of conflict and what they have suffered. Ghana is also a victim of some of the conflicts that have happened in the region, both Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Sierra Leone, because they also received a lot of refugees in the country. And that also is part of what added at some point pressure on the infrastructure. So I think that Ghana will continue to appreciate and work towards ensuring that they continue to enjoy this peace, rather than allow the influence of what is happening in other areas undermine the peace and stability.
Chukwuemeka is the Programs Director of the West African Network for Peace Building. Thanks so much for speaking to us early on. I was speaking to Mr. Martin J. Kosa, the Director of Elections of the New Patriotic Party. He seemed to agree to some portions of the report that was issued by WANEP, even though he's not read all the report. But we'll bring you more of this particular report that just came in a few moments ago on the West African Network for Peace Building, suggesting that Ghana is enjoying some amount of peace and stability and is excited about it. But it is suggesting that there are certain issues that the state would need to look at in order to continue to enjoy that peace. And WANEP, for instance, talks about the fact that the migration of people from the rural areas to the urban centers is creating or putting pressure on infrastructure. And that is a danger or an alert that government will need to look at, because when these people are on the street and they get frustrated, then they can get underground and begin to do all kinds of things. He also talks about the fact that political party elections towards 2016 can also spill over into public and be a danger, and so government will need to take advantage. We'll get you more of this particular report, but this will wrap up the first segment of the big story. When we come for the second segment, we'll be talking about getting interactive, and of course, we're still mourning our brother who died Saturday morning in London. We'll talk more about him on the interactive segment. Stay with them. I'm coming back in a moment. back to the big story. And it was the morning her brother, colleague, and friend Komla Dumont Interactive today. So we'll be letting you know what is on and how you can stay interactive. Gladys has just joined me, and a lot more people are still talking about Komla.
Yeah.
And I'm sure today we'll have a lot more of our viewers telling us exactly how they miss Komla.
But I think they're also talking about how they would want to remember him. Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nana. So this is when we get interactive with you. We are still mourning our very own Komla Dumont, and on social media today it's been quite interesting. Well, let's get interactive right here. The name is Gladys Osei Oredu, and you can join this conversation via our social media platforms, and it's facebook.com/joynews-on-tv, or you could also send us a tweet on twitter.com/joynews-on-tv. The handle is @joynews-on-tv or #JNInteractiveG8. Email, you could send that to joynewsim@multitvworld.com, and let's hear your comments, your opinions about the issue at stake. That's what has been posted on our Facebook. Just post your comments there and you'll hear it being read here on JN Interactive. Typical of Ghanaians, and I'm sure elsewhere in the world, when someone dies, you hear issues coming up and suggestions here and there. On social media today, almost everyone was seen talking about Komla's death, but comments that topped the chat was one from GJA President Afel Money. Now, let me brief you viewers on what he said. The president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afel Money, is asking for the establishment of a fund to cater for the children of the late BBC presenter Komla Dumont. He is proposing that his kids should also receive a state attention by way of instituting a fund to cater for them. Komla Dumont left behind a wife and 3 children. Mr. Money explained that the gesture will encourage other journalists who literally kill themselves for the job. He also stated that considering the tremendous outpour of grief over the tragic loss of Komla Dumont and the tributes attesting to his professional excellence, the best way for the state to honor him is to give him a befitting state burial. Now, this comment has generated diverse opinions, with people, some are asking so many questions. Questions like, will his children need the fund? Is it really necessary? Well, it's not for me to answer. Luckily, we have been joined by Afel Money, and he, who made a statement, will be telling us about what exactly he's looking at. So let's see if we have Afel. Still have Afel on the line. Hello, Afel.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Afel, for joining us. This is JN Interactive.
It's a pleasure to be on your station.
We posted your comment that a fund should be instituted for Komla, and we have had several comments. But what exactly do you mean by this fund?
I think the call for the establishment of such a fund is well intentioned. Here is a guy, is in the sense that Komla, even in death, is a reference point for quality journalism. You know, he killed himself for this job. To quote him, I take my job seriously. Indeed, he took his job so seriously to the extent that he has shown all his peers. On the national scene, you know, he was a defining figure for Joy FM. He gave the Super Money Show such a superlative quality, and to the extent that we crowned him the best journalist of King of Kings or journalist in 2003. Even though the Mother Association or DJ was tested with all kinds of rubber stones for giving him such pinnacle of an award, because the argument was that he had not been to journalism school and that he didn't have a litany of journalism related degrees against his name. But he challenged the critics, and he, from Joy FM, he was discovered by BBC, and on international scene, he projected the name of Ghana incredibly high. And to the extent that the BBC described him as the leading light of journalism in Africa, and according to Kofi Annan, one of the brightest young journalists Africa has ever produced.
Mr. Boni, let me catch you here. But who will be managing this fund for the children?
We need to set up a board of trustees to look at this fund because it to send a strong signal to people who go the extra mile to excel in their fields of endeavor, that their labor will never be in vain, and whether in life or in death, their labor will be recognized, and their families, will not be consigned to lead lives of destitution or poverty. Touch wood.
Mr. Moni.
Pardon me?
I am asking if we can set up a committee to manage this fund.
Yes.
Forgive me, I'm shying away from Komla. We have had government giving us an allocation. Has the GJA been able to set up a board to manage that fund for the GJA?
I think it's not only the GJA. I think the family rep should be on that board. His employer, Joy FM, should be on that board. And BBC should also be interested because he really over-labored for the BBC. And if Kuredes has snatched him away, I don't think the BBC will be so insensitive as to detach itself from such a fund. I believe once it is instituted, the response will be good because how best do we crystallize our love for him or demonstrate our love for him than to contribute to such a fund, which would go a long way to help his children to also grow up, either to reach the level that did or even exceed that level. Because many are those who are so brilliant, but because their parents or because their dependents are turned away by death, they struggle to make ends meet in life or to cater for their basic needs. But believe Koban Domo has, justified the need by virtue of his sterling performance to institute such a fund. And I believe once it is instituted, and with the media at our disposal, and with the media supporting us maximally, I believe we will to mobilize enough funds which will cater for the purpose for which it's going to be established.
Mr. Moni, do you think this is the most memorable thing we can do for Komla's memory?
The GJ has also called for a state burial. Aside from state burial, we are also calling for one of the highest national awards to be accorded to such a professional gem. In the words of the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Koban Duma was a patriot and the best in his generation. So if such a patriotic personality, has fallen victim to circumstances, then there's a need for the state to, in appreciation and in recognition of his achievements, both nationally and internationally, to accord him this honor even in death.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Afel Moni. We have been talking to Afel Moni, president of the Ghana Journalists Association. He has been elaborating a bit more on his proposal that a fund be instituted for the children of the late Komla Dumo. Well, let's hear what some of you have been saying to our cameras.
Well, I think it's a good suggestion. Komla was an iconic figure. He literally was an ambassador, not only for Ghana, but also for Africa, representing Ghana on the world stage and also representing Africa on the world stage. I believe the least we can do for him is to support his immediate family particularly his kids who are very young and will need a lot of support. And so I think it's a good idea. I mean, as journalists, especially for Komla, who blazed a trail, he was a trailblazer, for the media fraternity in Ghana. And I think that it won't be far-fetched for we as journalists to contribute our quota in helping raise his kids.
Well, I'm not too sure if that will exactly be necessary, because some of these things, for example, when you don't want to do them, you wouldn't want to make it such a public issue. But when it then becomes something that it begins to look as if you are making a direct appeal that people can contribute to it, in the kind of society that we live in, people may ridicule his children when they get to know about some of the things. So you wouldn't exactly want to make some of those things public. But to the extent that it's been made a public issue, I doubt it will be necessary. But for those who love him, for those that he's worked with, for the association he belongs to, like the GG and all of that, maybe they can support their families underground and not necessarily make it a public issue. So making it a public fund and asking people to contribute, I don't think it's a very good idea.
I really don't understand what that's all about. We are not under the impression that the children are going to be in hardship. And even if something like that should come up, I don't think it should be in the public domain. What I don't understand is, how does GJ come into this, set up a fund for the children and to encourage others? To encourage who? That's one thing I want to know. And I think that's a private matter, how the kids are going to be taken care of. So that should be left to the family.
I don't think it's so important because, I'm sure Komla has invested for the children and his family is well to do. I think they can, sort the kids out. So I don't think setting up a fund for the children is, the key to me.
Well, I think GJ has been suggesting so many things. First, I heard them say, for example, that there should be a state funeral, and then suddenly you hear them come up to say that a fund should be set up for Komla's children. But the question you want to ask is, are they starting themselves? What is their contribution to that? Because I believe that as a body of that kind of oversees the activities of journalists in this country, if they really mean well, if they really want something of that sort to be done for them, have they consulted the family in the first place? It's not as if like you're doing everything in isolation. Komla has a family. Komla is coming from a family. His parents obviously are aware of the challenges that perhaps the children might go through and all of those things, and therefore they also knew how Komla wanted to give the best for his children, and definitely there's no way they're going to allow the children to sort of walk about anyhow. But if somebody voluntarily want to do something for the children, it's worthwhile. But the GJ itself as a body, you ask yourself, are they bringing any contributions whatsoever? I think that it's easy to talk, and for them they love to talk. It's cheap talk. That's how I see it. Somebody is unfortunately passed, and you think this is an opportunity for you to gravitate towards wanting to latch on and get one or two things going for you. I think it's a complete waste of our time.
Those were some views from colleague journalists. Let me take your WhatsApp comments now. Let's see what you have also been saying on WhatsApp. So let's get going right now. On our WhatsApp, we have Theophilus Africa, who says, has the family said anything about they not being able to take good care of the children? Well, that's what Theophilus Africa Bonnie is saying. Nanayao says, let's stop the hypocrisy in this country. What about the numerous orphans on the street who could not afford to live on 1 Ghana cedi per day? That's Nanayao Barima. Okay. Desmond says, Asemo. That's coming. Ronald says, it is really true. That should be considered. Okay, so Ronald, you mean that should also be considered. Okay, and that's coming from Ronald Diabwa. Maxwell Anefi says, I thought the man left money behind. How about the numerous people whose parents have died? That's coming from Maxwell Anefi. He's asking, how about the numerous people whose parents have died? How are they being taken care of? Mohammed Bawa says, people, please understand him because it's purely human nature. Okay. Kennedy says Komla Dumo was paying tax to UK government and not Ghana government, so why state burial? Kennedy is asking why state burial since he wasn't paying tax to Ghana government. Wilson Rita says, another avenue for corruption. That's coming from Wilson Rita Jifa. And she says another avenue for corruption. Emmanuel Abuaje says the DJA should stop this hypocrisy because the family haven't come out to say they cannot take care of the wife and children. I believe that's what you meant to say. They haven't come out to say they cannot take care of the wife and children. Marvelous Mensa says, oh Ghana, you never set a fund to cater for the orphans across the country. Marvelous Mensa. Well, let's see. Let me take a few more. Anthony says, I support it. We should all help the children. That's coming from Anthony Kusi Edu Bwedu. You believe we should all support it and help the children, the 3 children of Komla Dumo. All right. Jackson says, if I were to be a Ghanaian, I could buy that idea. Jackson, okay, Mason Gold. If he was a Ghanaian, he could buy. Charles says, I think BBC should do that and Ghanaians. Okay, so that's from Charles McCarthy. Let's see who else is. A free Nathaniel says, perfectly good idea. That's from a free Nathaniel. Okay, so I'll be going to Facebook pretty soon. Let me just take about one more, and then we move on to Facebook. Let's see who is next. All right, I free Nathaniel again says, I didn't stop it. Okay, so Western says, I agree with DJA. Okay, so Chalimbo Western says, I agree with DJA. Caris says, it's well. G. Caris, it's well. That's coming from G. Caris. All right, so let's get serious here. We have had several funds. I'm sure you remember the Stadium Disaster Fund, Melcom Disaster Fund, and several others. What became of it? Are we in the position to manage another state fund? I don't know. You tell me.
Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. And even the GJ itself, are they even accountable to journalists based on contributions that people pay? For example, they get monies to organize journalist awards and stuff like that. Do they account for the journalists that they supervise? And yet again, even the mystery behind the media fund has not been resolved. And you're asking that, an innocent man who is dead is set up a fund for his children. No doubt about that. It's fine. It's a noble idea. But are they themselves willing to put in their money? What is their contribution? Before you come to the people to say, look, we want a fund to be set up for Komla's children. This is our plan. This is what we want to do. This is what we have. But don't just get up out of the space and come and say, set up an account for or a fund for Komla's children. It lends itself to a lot of corruption. Sorry, but I think it just doesn't make sense to me.
The GG itself has some issues with its media fund. I don't think there should be any talk about a fund for the children. I don't think it should happen at this point. It's not supposed to be for public consumption. Allow the family to deal with whatever. The family haven't come out to complain about money for the children. So I think we should mind our own business.
That strengthens the argument against the need for such a fund. But I'm all for helping the family out in terms of supporting the family and finding ways to generously help that these children, her children and his children, I should say, and the rest of the family are supported. But when you look at the way funds have been managed in time past, when you look at the fact that we live in a society where you would want to make some of those donations public and all of that, I don't think the idea of a fund being made a public issue is a very good one.
Well, that's true, but I believe that this is quite an important it's quite an important thing for us. I think that although we've had a history of not really managing funds well, I don't think that such a thing like this will be mismanaged. The GJA can set up a committee, or a board who would manage this whole thing and make it more transparent. Anybody who contributes should be able to have his name put down. At the end of the day, there should be accountability, and I think that if the right procedures are followed, there will not be any need for disagreement or whatsoever.
All right, so let's see what you have been posting on our Facebook wall. I'll go straight to the comments. So let's see. Israel says, it is a nice idea, but let's think of other needy children out there. Ni Ba Amo Charles says, Abba, this man wants to drag Komla's name in the mud as though he didn't leave behind a legacy for his children and wife to live on. How about the soldiers and servicemen who died in wars defending their country? The dead deserve some respect. Chia. Okay, that's coming from Charles. Mbema says, what is this man talking about? Who said Komla Dumor didn't make plans for his children, and even if he did, I think their mother should be in the position to take very good care of them. What has this man got to say about the thousands of kids on the street without mothers and fathers, that kids that are not sure of where their next meal will be coming from? I think he should come again. Okay, so Obedowusu says, that would be a kind gesture, but frankly, I think Komla's family can take care of the business. Charlie of us who are down here are suffering. Okay. Kofi Akowa says, Ghanaians and their hypocritical attitude. Fund for what? Okay, you mean fund for what? Prince Jacob says, a stage burial is okay, but to ask for fund for his kids is good, but is it sustainable? When a renowned engineer also dies, people will ask for funds, then we'll have 1,000,001 funds to put in money. Okay, Evan Bright, you have a long one there. It will do more good if there are state funds for charitable organizations that seek the welfare of deprived, abused, oppressed children in the Ghanaian societies than what this man has proposed. When the farmer, charcoal seller, and palm wine tappers die, no one cares about their deprived kids' education, let alone their means of feeding. Oh, well, so please let's advocate for such funds for foundations such as Joe Care Foundation that works to care for the. Okay, you are promoting another. Komla, I believe, was married to educated woman and presume the family can handle this proposal. State burial. What about truck driver who died in an accident whilst conveying food from Techiman to the castle? What about him? God save our souls. That's from Eben Bright. Let's see, Majid from Gushigu says, well thought, but hey, we are in Ghana. Ghanaians are now so furious about anyone who talks about their money. Okay, so Musa Tamale says, state funeral for someone like Komla Dumor is not a bad idea at all, but it is the prerogative of government to decide who to give a state burial or funeral. Okay, that was just a proposal. Anthony says the GJA president is well capable of taking care of these kids after all. There are only 3, because leadership goes with responsibilities. Poor men have died, leaving their children on the streets, and he sees nothing wrong. But for the rich man's children far away in London, we should create a fund for them. He should come again. All right, so it looks like many of you seem to disagree with the fund, but you agree. Okay, so let me just take one more and we go. Samuel says, what about the journalist who died on Sunday? He works at Metro TV. Is it the same thing that you people will do for his child and have state burial? They all served Mother Ghana. Do something about him too. Our heroes are gone. May they rest in perfect peace. I wish I could go on and on, but time has caught up with us. So let's end it here and continue tomorrow right here on Joy News on Multi TV. So Nana has just joined me, and to wrap up,
My name is Bright, and
my name is Gladys Osei Uredi. Thanks so much for your time.